Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast update for the Western U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Before I get started, I want to let you know this will be the only Western regional forecast here, our only regional forecast updates for the week. Friday morning will be a holiday here at Nutrien Ag Solutions, the Thanksgiving holiday. So I wish you a wonderful holiday. Hope you're safe and well with whatever it is you're doing over the holiday weekend, but we will be not putting out fresh content. So this is it over the next week. Let's go ahead and dive in. We'll look at temperatures here first thing on Tuesday morning, November 24th. We've got some colder air settling in across parts of the Northwest into the Central Rockies. High elevations here dealing with some single digits and teens, 20s across the region. A bit warmer as you head off toward the east. We've got some warm air being drawn northward by a storm system across the Four Corners region. Temperatures in the 50s, 60s, and 70s where we have the potential for some severe weather over the next 24 to 36 hours from the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, east-northeast across parts of the Ohio River Valley. We'll look at the satellite picture then. A lot of sunshine across the west right now. The only cloud cover we found is across the Pacific Northwest and then the northern Rockies. And then here's our big storm system. You can see it organizing here, bringing in, again, some snow into parts of the Central Rockies, a little bit of snow across northern New Mexico is expected here as well over the next 24 to 36 hours before this begins to taper off and pull away to the east. Here's the radar picture on Tuesday morning. Again, our thunderstorms across the Red River region, round one, ongoing across that area. Rain off to the north, and then where we've got some cold air coming in on the backside. Again, that chance for some snow from northern New Mexico through the Denver area, off into the upper Midwest. So as we look at the hazards map from the National Weather Service, a little bit more active than it was on Friday morning when I remarked about the abnormally quiet hazards map. You see the lavender, the purple shading there. We've got winter weather advisories across the Central Rockies, the upper Midwest, and along the Cascades here across portions of Washington and Oregon where we're expecting some higher elevation snowfall. What I want to talk about here first, this map, you see all the numbers on here and the shading. You can probably guess the brown shading is drier, the green shading is a little bit wetter. What we're looking at here is from the first of the year through mid-November, total precipitation ranks by climate district. And so this map, all the numbers here, we've kept precipitation records, accurate records here across the U.S. for 128 years. So on this map, a 1 would be the wettest out of those 128 years, and then 128 would be the driest out of those 128 years. Across parts of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, on the heels of some of these tropical systems and a couple of slow-moving storm systems, we're talking about our all-time wettest calendar year, potentially, if we keep this going through November, again, across parts of the Carolinas into the Mid-South. On the flip side, you see the dark brown shading, those numbers in the mid to upper 120s, as where we're talking about a top 3 driest calendar year on record and shaping up to be one of the driest falls on record across California into the Four Corners region. So this is really a situation where we should be entering our wettest time of year and kind of eating into this. And unfortunately, I feel like I'm bringing you the same news over and over. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's just not there over the next 7 days. We're looking at the next week of total forecast precipitation. We're going to see a couple more opportunities for additional rainfall across coastal areas of Washington and Oregon over the next 3 to 4 days, but we're even going to be shutting this down as we head into next week with a bit of a pattern change. It's really going to start to favor most of the precipitation across the lower 48 being focused on the central and southern United States. So as we look at the next 7 days and then potentially the next 7 to 14 days, continuing to see a lot in the way of dry weather from California into the Four Corners region. Now, I keep saying the Four Corners region. There is opportunities for snow across the interior Rockies, talking about Colorado into northern New Mexico, but this is not the area that we're most concerned about here across the west at this point. That would be back off to the west. Now here's the jet stream pattern that we've got over the next few days, and again, I showed you this last Friday. You can focus in on this corridor here where it's just a train of disturbances coming in from northwest to southeast from the Chukchi Sea, across the Aleutian Islands, through the Gulf of Mexico, and then into the Pacific Northwest. We talked about why this is not a good pattern for California and points east from there, when really we would be wanting to draw our storm systems in and that strong upper level flow from southwest to northeast. We would want that moisture coming in from Hawaii being pumped in from the southwest. Instead, over the last 1 to 2 weeks, we've continued to feed moisture in across, again, this trajectory from the Chukchi Sea through the Gulf of Alaska and then blasting British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest. So we have added on some moisture here across Oregon, Washington, at times far northern California, and then onward into the northern Rockies. But I'll show you where we're headed as we move into the very end of November and early December, as a pattern here that is going to favor some ridging across the west. So we're looking at troughing across the Aleutian Islands, ridging across the Pacific Northwest, a setup here that could really favor some east coast storm systems. So strong flow troughing across the southern U.S. Into the mid-Atlantic, the potential for nor'easters here. But as we talk about dry patterns, we're moving from one dry pattern in California to another dry pattern, because this is one now we're not even bringing moisture into the Pacific Northwest. Now we're taking that strong jet stream flow and really just kind of bringing the Pacific moisture into Western Canada. So here's a look at that. We're looking at the precipitable water plot over the next 7 days or so. And again, with this pattern, the current pattern, the storm system's coming out of the northwest. We're still getting that occasional feed of Pacific moisture coming in here to the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be the case as we head through the weekend. Additional opportunities for some precipitation, some rainfall in coastal areas, and high elevation snowfall as this pattern begins to wind down. But as we get going into next week and we set up a pattern that's dealing with more in the way of ridging, that flow being directed off to the north, moisture now being confined to the Pacific Northwest into the Gulf of Alaska, at times we even end up with downslope flow here coming from east to west across California. So forget about bringing deep moisture in from the Pacific. Now we're just bringing cold Arctic air, cold dry air across the Rockies from the north into the southwestern U.S. So again, we'll look at the precipitation forecast verbatim from the European operational model. You can see as we head through the day today that chance for some coastal rain in Washington and Oregon. Winter weather advisory for some high elevation snow in the Cascades tonight into tomorrow morning. That snow could continue at times, moving off into the northern Rockies as we head through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Thanksgiving is looking pretty dry across the west. No big travel issues. I know it's a different holiday, not nearly as many people on the roads trying to travel, but wherever you're enjoying your Thanksgiving in the western United States, it doesn't look like anyone will be getting dumped on in any form of precipitation. Now we'll get another little wave of moisture here across the Pacific Northwest as we get into Saturday night and Sunday. Could bring some additional rainfall to western Washington and some snow to the Cascades, but this one really doesn't stick. Again, we start trending away from this pattern. Here's another little leg that comes in here, maybe Monday of next week. Lower confidence in this as we get into the beginning of next week with this very kind of active and wavy pattern. A lot of uncertainty here, but again, then we trend into next week and there's just nothing showing up here across the west as far as sustained precipitation. I'm rocking back and forth the Monday through Friday period next week. So nothing to talk about from California east as we head into the holiday weekend, and then looking like even less to talk about as far as promising moisture as we head into the very first few days of December. So the next 7 days on the left, again, a couple of opportunities for additional moisture across western Washington, western Oregon. That snow in the Cascades, heaviest tonight into tomorrow. But then as we talk about California into the Four Corners region, really keeping things dry over the next 7 days. Total snowfall forecast, again, you can see even the snow across the northern Rockies and the Cascades, not nearly what it was just a couple of weeks ago. All of that snow now and the Pacific moisture trending northward as we head into the very end of November, into December. Again, seeing a lot of that stacking up now around the northern Rockies as we get into British Columbia, all the way into Alaska. So not great news is what I'm going to leave you with as we head into the holiday weekend. We'll look at those temperatures then just to wrap it up. Here are your highs for the day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. A bit cooler across the Rockies down into Southern California. Temperatures in the 40s and 50s across the Central Valley, north into the Pacific Northwest. And again, looking relatively quiet as far as precipitation goes. Here are your highs Friday, Saturday, and then we'll talk about next week. Next week, looking drier, and with ridging coming in, it looks like we'll likely be talking about at least a slight warming trend across the Pacific Northwest. Again, we'll talk about those details next week. I just want to leave it at that. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you all again on Monday morning.